Welcome. We're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into Zuzor. We'll talk about what experiential media, the building blocks, and then different setup options you have to use with depth cameras and basically any display you want. So let's talk about Zuzor and kind of opening possibilities for your business. As we said, really what it is, it's a software that enables you to just kind of plug and play and create experiences quickly, easily, and more affordably than before. With our rapid content creation capabilities, you can actually customize an experience for a specific brand or for your client really in minutes and create very personalized looks to match their brand, match their messaging, and really match whatever the intention of the experience is. We've made it really easy to use, from AI-enabled learning to remotely managed kind of CMS capabilities built in, and really gives you the ability to set up on multiple surfaces and do it really quickly and easily. We support different depth cameras. As you can see here, we support the Intel RealSense, the Orbec, and the Microsoft Kinect. It gives you the freedom to set up indoors, outdoors, big, small, on the floor, on the wall, whatever it is you want to do. So let's talk a little bit about experiential engagement and really what the building blocks to this experiential media is. Okay, so right here we're going to open this little link that will walk us through this presentation. So really experiential media is made up of three different building blocks. There's the base effects. On top of it, there's concepts that let you actually put in your own assets, whether they be pictures, transparent PNGs, let's say a logo, or an MP4 video. That goes in the concept to really customize an effect. And on top of all of that, there's modalities of interaction, which is how the content is reacting to movement. And we say that there's kind of two different levels to it. There's experiential design, where you're actually putting all the elements inside of an experience. And then there's experiential imagineering, which is when you combine multiple experiences, and we actually call that a journey. So a journey is a playlist of experiences, and it gives you the ability and capacity to really send the user, the visitor, the person going through the experience through a journey where they go through different experiences and really live and experience the messaging and brand values that you're trying to communicate and send forth. So we have the basic effects. We've got silhouette reflection, we've got plasmic colors, we've got matrix, motion, migration flock, and 3Ds. On top of that, we've got the concepts. So some concepts apply to some effects. For example, we've got looking glass, embellishment, continuance, impediments, and layering. And on top of that, we've got the modalities of interaction that are again unique for each effect. So the basic effect, the very first one, is what we call silhouette reflection. And here you can see the person that the depth camera picks up, and you can decide if you just want to put the contour in, if you want to put a circular contour, what we call an entrapping silhouette, or a rectangular silhouette, right? And within that, you can actually put a layer. So this is the layering concept we mentioned. And it's actually more of an effect where you can put any content on the very back layer or the very front layer. So for example, here you can see a background picture where you can see the Intel logo in the front. And that way, whenever there's dynamic content where people move, the Intel logo is always on the forefront and always visible. Now, if we're talking about looking glass, which is actually a really popular concept to apply to a lot of effects, what it lets you do is essentially apply looking glass to the silhouette reflection or other effects, where as the person moves, they're actually revealing elements of the picture that you've put inside of the silhouette reflection. So that could be an image or it could be a video, right? So we take any video like what you see here, and now it's actually inside the person. So as the person's moving, he's revealing elements of that video through the looking glass. Another concept that's very important and very useful is what we call continuance. It lets you leave kind of a trail. So as you move, instead of it just being your hand, it leaves kind of a trail, as you can see here. So it gives it more depth, a little bit more of almost a sense of time. So as people move, they can leave a trail. And if you combine it with a looking glass or a video, you can really get pretty sophisticated experiences. Now the next thing is called plasmic colors. It's an effect that's actually pretty much a favorite for everybody. There's endless varieties, but really the movement of the person or the object generates what we call plasmic color. You can incorporate any colors you want and particles into it too. And there's an extra concept on top of that where you can incorporate an impediment. So you can see this example here where the logo is actually used as an impediment for the plasmic colors. So it actually interacts with whatever barriers you want to incorporate into the interaction. And really you can use it creatively to create some amazing moments that really spark and push the visitor or the user to engage with the content and explore and kind of start up the curiosity in order for them to really go deeper in this experience that you've created. This next effect is called matrix. It's basically particles that go back to where they started from, typically in a matrix position, but not necessarily. You can also specify the origin and apply a looking glass, and you can set it to be any amount of the particles you want. And there's even extra variables, like if you want them to connect, or this next concept that you can apply to them, which is called embellishment. So there, instead of taking a circular particle, you can take any PNG asset and actually apply it to that particle and embellish it with that texture. And the next effect is actually called motion. Motion is basically moving particles. So it means they're particles that are born and move basically continuously until they die. So they keep moving. And again, this is stuff where you can control where they're born from, which direction they move. You can embellish them, you can add continuance, you can even add connecting lines between the particles. The last particle-based effect is actually called a migration block. So they're kind of free-roaming particles, and they give you the freedom to actually have stuff for people to interact with and push, rather than particles that, let's say, are always moving from A to B or always going back to A. These ones kind of roam around. And again, you have the ability to use any sort of concept on it, whether it be embellishment, looking glass, continuance, and so on. The last effect we have is called 3Ds, and it actually lets you activate 3D objects. So we support OBJ and 3ds, and you can actually upload the 3D objects directly into an experience and then have the person's movement affect them, whether if they touch them they rotate, or if they touch them they change size, or the lighting changes or whatnot. Really easily you can actually incorporate 3D objects, and again, pictures, videos, logos, anything you want, just incorporate it into an experience to make that authoring process that much easier. And now the exciting part is really the creativity, as how do you use these experiences, these effects, how do you create a narrative to really push your messaging, push your brand, push your value, or just activate the audience in whatever way is right for you. It might just be a social media kind of hub for people to take selfies with. It might be a whole company story for people to engage through. It might be a museum exhibition. Really, the creativity is the limit. And what we've done is we've actually put it all on a platform for you. So when you go to Zuzor app, we actually have experiences pre-made. So we have a gallery for you where you can actually see a bunch of pre-made experiences just as kind of a starting place. And you can go ahead and start customizing them, changing the assets, changing the concepts, just in ways to kind of really quickly give you something to go, give you a base to start with, but also give you the freedom to really build from scratch if you wanted to. Now let's talk a little bit about all the different setup options that you can do with Zuzor. So we have a little guide explicitly explaining exactly which way you can set it up and how easy it is. So there's two main ways we call one kind of upright installations, and we call one top-down installations. So what that means, upright is typically a wall, could be a video wall, a TV, an LED wall, a projection on the screen, but typically it's upright. So as the person's moving, they see themselves across in some way. It might not be one-to-one, they might be moving here, and the display might be way over here, but that's what we call an upright installation. Now, top-down installation is where the camera is actually set up either on top looking down, or whichever way is right for your scenario. But in that way, you can activate a floor, or you can activate a ceiling, or you can activate, let's say, a table. So as people move, that area is actually reacting to their movement. For example, somebody walks and you saw that the floor lights up to their movement and reacts. So let's see a few of the different ways you can do that. So for example, here, as a person is walking on stage, the camera is actually set up way down stage, looking up stage, looking at him. You can kind of see it right there at the bottom. Now that's one scenario. Another scenario is actually not putting it across, but putting it on top. In this specific example, we're using Intel RealSense, so it's actually outdoors. And Intel RealSense is the only camera that supports outdoors. But you can see that the camera is set up right up top looking down, and that's also a fine way to do it. In this immersive scenario where you're seeing Coca-Cola, we actually have the camera staying opposite. So since the person wanted to be able to walk all the way to the wall and be detected, the only way to capture that is if the camera is opposite. So camera is looking across, and in this scenario it's the same way as the way the projectors are facing. So that's true for all three walls and the floor. And of course you can activate the floor, and typically all that entails is putting the camera on top looking down. And if you, let's say, doing projection, then you can again snatch it so that the person's movement is activating the floor right under them. There's also an option to not necessarily line up the camera and the display. For example, here you can see the camera's a little further back in the display, or the floor projection in this specific case. And in that way, when people move, they're seeing themselves a little forward to make the interaction not under them, but something that they can see and be kind of a better spectator to. Other than that, you also have the freedom to activate a display in any ratio and any screen size, and you actually have the freedom to turn the camera on its orientation, either vertical or horizontal. For example, here you can see that it's set up on top and set up in a horizontal landscape to better match the field of vision of the camera with the orientation of the screen. And in this example, you can see that the camera is actually flipped vertically to give you more height and better match people's movements to the display parameter. There's some more resources here for you to look at, but really there's lots of ways for you to activate it, and the best way is really just to start tinkering, try it out with different displays. And there's a free version called Zuzor Authoring that you can actually start playing with and start demoing today, and actually start customizing experiences right now to really start testing the concept and see all of the ways you can use it to really enhance your current audiovisual installations or agency designs. And if you ever have any questions, please schedule a call. One of our team members would love to talk to you, or go ahead and just download the software and get started. Cheers.